Christmas Eve was meant to bring joy. Instead, it left behind a silence the world couldn't forget. There are dates that hold a certain warmth, a glow we associate with family, with kindness, with home. December 24th is one of those days, a time for laughter around the dinner table, for children dreaming of morning surprises, for quiet snowfalls outside glowing windows. But for one family in rural North Carolina, Christmas Eve of 1929 didn't bring warmth. It brought heartbreak. A heartbreak so deep, so sudden, it would ripple across the country and echo through time. Long after lights dimmed and snow melted, people would still whisper about what happened in the hills of Stokes County. This is not a story of fame or fortune. It's not a headline of scandals or fame. It's a story of a quiet family and a quiet unraveling. One that left behind more questions than answers. In the days leading up to Christmas, Charles Lawson made an unusual decision. He took his wife and 7 children into the nearby city of Winston-Salem. There, he asked them to dress in their finest clothes for a formal family portrait. For a humble farming family, this was rare. Money was tight, life was practical, but he insisted. In the photograph, the family stands close together. The children are solemn, the parents still. Some say the photo was simply a rare chance to preserve a memory. Others believe it was something else, a quiet farewell. To understand what happened, we must first understand who they were. Charles Lawson was a tobacco farmer. He worked long hours in the fields just outside the small town of Germantown. People knew him as a quiet man, dependable, with a sense of duty to his family. His wife, Fannie, was the heart of the household. Calm and gentle, she kept things in order. Meals, laundry, prayers before bed. Their children were their world. Marie, the eldest at 16, helped raise her younger siblings with grace beyond her years. Then came Arthur, Carrie, Maybelle, James, Raymond, and finally, baby Mary Lou. They didn't have much, but what they had, they shared. Food from the garden, songs on the porch, warm hands around coffee mugs in the cold. No one expected anything out of the ordinary. They were, in every sense, a regular family living regular days. Until that one changed everything. The morning of December 24th, 1929 began like many others. The family rose early. Fannie prepared breakfast. The younger children played near the stove, chasing each other in stockinged feet. Marie helped her mother in the kitchen, baking a holiday cake to enjoy later. Outside, snow had fallen gently overnight, covering the hills with a soft white layer. The fields were quiet, the roads nearly empty. But something about Charles seemed different, distant. He moved through the house with a kind of slowness, as if his mind were far away. Neighbors later recalled that in recent weeks, Charles had seemed tired, distracted. Some chalked it up to the stress of the harvest season, or perhaps an old injury that never fully healed. But no one suspected that anything was seriously wrong. By early afternoon, things changed. One of the children ran to a nearby neighbor's house, panicked. Something was terribly wrong at the Lawson farm. The details, even today, remain deeply unsettling. But what's known is that 6 members of the Lawson family lost their lives that day, not due to accident nor nature, but by the hands of someone they knew, someone they trusted. One member of the family survived, 16-year-old Arthur, only because he had been sent on an errand into town earlier that day. When he returned, the house was silent, the warmth gone, the holiday spirit extinguished. Arthur ran for help. Law enforcement arrived shortly after. What they found was a scene no one in that quiet county had ever witnessed before. Sheriff officers moved cautiously through the home. There were no strangers nearby, no signs of theft, no footprints leading away from the scene. The investigation quickly pointed to a single conclusion. This had been the act of someone within the family itself. Charles was later found a short distance from the home. He had left behind no clear note, no confession, only unanswered questions. Investigators searched the house and surrounding land. They interviewed neighbors, friends, and local clergy. They looked through family records, hoping to find a pattern, a motive, a cause. But there was little to go on. One possible explanation came from a head injury Charles had sustained months earlier. Some speculated it may have affected his behavior. A brain autopsy was conducted, but no conclusive abnormalities were found. The deeper investigators looked, the more questions arose. In the weeks following the tragedy, a relative came forward. She claimed that Marie, the eldest daughter, had confided in her that something wasn't right at home, that she had been carrying a secret too heavy for someone her age. Some speculated that this secret involved her father. The rumors spread quietly, whispers of a possible pregnancy, hints that Fannie, the mother, may have recently learned the truth. But these whispers were never officially confirmed. There was no public statement, no medical documentation, and no trial. Still, many believe this may have been a trigger, a final unbearable burden that led to the events of Christmas Eve. The impact on a community. News of the Lawson family tragedy spread quickly. In an era without the internet or 24-hour news cycles, the story still made national headlines. People across the country were stunned. How could such a thing happen in a quiet town, in a seemingly peaceful family? The community of Germantown grieved. Churches held services, neighbors brought food, comfort, and prayers to the surviving relatives. And Arthur, the only child left behind, faced a lifetime of pain, confusion, and solitude. He rarely spoke of that day. He later moved away, married, and raised a family of his own. But according to those close to him, the events of 1929 never fully left him. How could they? In time, the Lawson home was abandoned. Visitors would come by, some out of curiosity, others out of grief. A few even claimed to feel a strange stillness on the land, a quiet that felt unnatural. Eventually, the house was torn down. But the story remained. It was passed from neighbor to neighbor, from generation to generation, always with the same question, why? Why would a father harm those he was meant to protect? Why would a season of joy end in such sorrow? There were no easy answers. There never are. The Lawson case became more than just a historical event. It became a symbol of hidden suffering, of silence, of the importance of listening when something feels off. It reminded people that what's visible on the outside doesn't always match what's happening within. The family's final photo still circulates today, a frozen moment in time, a snapshot of love, confusion, and unspoken truth. Not for shock value, not for fame, but to remember. To remember a mother's kindness, a daughter's strength, the innocence of children, and the pain that can ripple through generations. Though nearly a century has passed, the Lawson family story continues to hold meaning. It reminds us to pay attention, to check in with those we love, to take mental health seriously, even when the signs are quiet, especially then. It also reminds us of the human need to make sense of senseless things. Sometimes we want answers, but all we're left with are moments, shadows, and silence. Still, in that silence, there can be understanding. There can be compassion. There can be remembrance. We say their names to honor them. Fannie, Marie, Carrie, Maybelle, James, Raymond, Mary Lou. We remember them not for the way their lives ended, but for who they were in life. A family, trying to make their way in the world, celebrating the holidays like so many others. Their story is part of history, but it's also part of humanity. A quiet reminder that tragedy can touch anyone, even on the most joyful days. If this story moved you, take a moment to reflect. Check in on those around you, speak gently, listen fully. And if you feel something's not right in yourself or in someone you care about, don't wait. Seek help. Reach out. Stories like this remind us that every moment matters. Let's carry that with us. Let's never forget